A historical conversation on recreation. What is recreation?
Joseph Smith clearly advocated athletic and recreational activity because he recognized that physical activity benefited the mind and spirit as well as the body. Joseph Smith believed youth should learn both to work and to play, two activities he did well himself. Many stories circulated about the prophet's ability to do hard physical work. For example, while William Walker was in his early 20s, he worked 3 years with Joseph. I went into the hayfield with him, and he assisted in mowing grass, with a sigh, many a day putting in 10 hours, good hard work, he recalled.
Anything that will enhance comfort, consolation, and happiness in our associations with each other is ordained of God, that we should have great joy and peace in our dealings with others. The blessings of food, sleep, and social enjoyment are ordained of God for His glory and our benefit, and it is for us to learn to use them and not abuse them, that His kingdom may advance on the earth, and we advance in it.
Let your recreations be manful, not sinful. The leisure time of children must be constructively directed to wholesome, positive pursuits. Too much time viewing television can be destructive, and pornography in this medium should not be tolerated. It is estimated that growing children today watch television over 25 hours per week. Communities have a responsibility to assist the family in promoting wholesome entertainment. What a community tolerates will become tomorrow's standard for today's youth.
It is necessary to prepare and to plan so that we don't fritter away our lives. Without a goal, there can be no real success. One of the best definitions of success I have ever heard goes something like this: success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Someone has said the trouble with not having a goal is that you can spend your life running up and down the field and never crossing the goal line. Near the end of his life, one father looked back on how he'd spent his time on earth. An acclaimed, respected author of numerous scholarly works, he said, "I wish I'd written one less book and taken my children fishing more often." Time passes quickly. Many parents say that it seems like yesterday that their children were born. Now those children are grown, perhaps with children of their own. Where did the years go, they ask. We cannot call back time. That is past. We cannot stop time. That now is. And we cannot experience the future in our present state. Time is a gift, a treasure, not to be put aside for the future, but to be used wisely in the present.
What has been and is the recreation in the church?
To be overly humorous, they thought, was to be cynical toward life. But Joseph Smith saw humor and religion as quite reconcilable. As he saw it, once one acknowledges that there is something beyond laughter, a core of life that is solemn, serious, and tender, there is still plenty of room for jesting. At least that is the way he was, a jolly good fellow, as one contemporary described him. As a youngster, John Hess occasionally played with the Smith children, and he recalled when the prophet got tired of studying, he would go play with the children in their games about the house, to give himself exercise. When he would go back to his studies as before. He is known to have wrestled, pulled sticks, engaged in snowball fights, played ball, slid on ice with his children, played marbles, shot at a mark, and fished. Another reason the prophet was so supportive was that he hoped to dispel many of the sanctimonious attitudes of many religionists who believed activities such as athletics were not consistent with Christianity. He was brimming over with the noblest and purest of human nature, which often gave vent in innocent amusements, in playing ball, in wrestling with his brothers and scuffling with them, and enjoying himself. He was not like a man with a stake run down his back, and with his face cast in brazen mold, that he could not smile, and he had no joy in his heart. Oh, he was full of joy, he was full of gladness, he was full of love. All of his life, Joseph Smith lived on the frontier, where men had to pit their brute strength against nature and sometimes against one another. He was a large man, strong and physically active. He delighted in competitive sports, including pulling sticks, a test of physical strength. Our archives contain many recollections of his wrestling with friends and acquaintances. My first introduction to him was rather singular. I saw him out in the field with his brother Hiram. He had on a very old hat and was engaged shooting at a mark, or target. I was introduced to him and he invited me home with him. I accepted the invitation and I watched him pretty closely to see what I could learn. He remarked while passing to his house that this was the first hour he had spent in recreation for a long time.
President Brigham Young knew that true happiness comes only through righteous living, but he also knew that much enjoyment in life can come through wholesome recreation and entertainment. He was fond of the theater, dancing, and other social amusements, and provided opportunities for the saints to enjoy these pastimes, believing that they were important to the people's well-being. In Salt Lake City, he supervised the building of the social hall, in which were held dances and theatrical performances. In referring to the social hall, he stated, "That is our fun hall, and not a place in which to administer the sacrament. We dedicated it to the purpose for which it was built. You know what spirit attends that room. There we have had governors, judges, doctors, lawyers, merchants, passers-by, etc., who did not belong to our church. And what has been the universal declaration of each and every one? I never felt so well before in all my life at any party as I do here. And the saints do not feel as well in any other place of amusement. Everything in its time and everything in its place. Life is best enjoyed when time periods are evenly divided between labor, sleep, and recreation. All men, women, and children should labor, all must sleep, and if mental and physical balance is to be maintained, all people should spend 1/3 of their time in recreation, which is rebuilding, voluntary activity, never idleness. 8 hours work, 8 hours sleep, and 8 hours recreation. The world considers it very wicked for a Christian to hear music and to dance. Many preachers say that fiddling and music come from hell. But I say there is no fiddling. There is no music in hell. Music belongs to heaven, to cheer God, angels, and men. If we could hear the music there is in heaven, it would overwhelm us mortals. Music and dancing are for the benefit of holy ones, and all of those who come here tonight who are not holy and righteous and do not worship God have no right to be here. Our work, our everyday labor, our whole lives are within the scope of our religion. This is what we believe and what we try to practice. Yet the Lord permits a great many things that He never commands. The Lord never commanded me to dance, yet I have danced. You all know it, for my life is before the world. Yet while the Lord has never commanded me to do it, He has permitted it. I do not know that He ever commanded the boys to go and play at ball, yet He permits it. I am not aware that He ever commanded us to build a theater, but He has permitted it, and I can give the reason why. Recreation and diversion are as necessary to our well-being as the more serious pursuits of life.
Families must spend more time together in work and recreation. Family home evenings should be scheduled once a week as a time for recreation, work projects, skits, songs around the piano, games, special refreshments, and family prayers. Like iron links in a chain, this practice will bind a family together in love, pride, tradition, strength, and loyalty. I believe there is a great need, my brethren and sisters, for family recreation and cultural activities together. We should do things together as a family. It may mean a reduction in participation in women's clubs and men's clubs, but if families could only seek their recreation and cultural activities more as a family unit, I am sure that untold benefits and blessings would accrue. A little boy was asked only this last summer, after he said he was going to a summer camp, "What is a summer camp?" And he answered, "Those places where little boys go for mother's vacation." Let us take more of our vacations together as families. Can we have a weekly evening at home, as has been admonished and counseled for years by the First Presidency of the Church? More wholesome activities together is a great need of the families of America.
As I look to the future, I see little to feel enthusiastic about concerning the family in America and across the world. Drugs and alcohol are taking a terrible toll, which is not likely to decrease. Harsh language one to another, indifference to the needs of one another, all seem to be increasing. There is so much of child abuse. There is so much of spouse abuse. There is growing abuse of the elderly. All of this will happen and get worse unless there is an underlying acknowledgement, yes, a strong and fervent conviction concerning the fact that the family is an instrument of the Almighty. It is His creation. It is also the basic unit of society. I lift a warning voice to our people. We have moved too far toward the mainstream of society in this matter. Now, of course, there are good families. There are good families everywhere. But there are too many who are in trouble. There is a malady with a cure. The prescription is simple and wonderfully effective. It is love. It is plain, simple, everyday love and respect. It is a tender plant that needs nurturing, but it is worth all of the effort we can put into it.
You can't have a strong nation without strong families. The father, the mother, the children as one unit working together. Now the family is falling apart all over America, all over the world. If we can just cultivate good, wholesome family life among our members, I don't worry very much about the future of this church.
Let our house be a house of order, said the Lord. For everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven, said Ecclesiastes or the preacher. And so it is with you and with me. May we make time for our family, time for our work, time for recreation, time for service, time for study, time for meditation, but definitely time for Christ. So frequently, we mistakenly believe that our children need more things, when in reality their silent pleadings are simply for more of our time. I submit that the accumulation of wealth or the multiplication of assets belie the Master's teaching when he counseled, "Lay not up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also."
What are the outcomes from participation in recreation?
Every evening we gathered our children together. I think that we presented the most peculiar aspect of any family that ever lived upon the earth. All seated in a circle, father, mother, sons, and daughters, listening in breathless anxiety to the religious teachings of a boy 17 years of age. The prophet Joseph Smith enjoyed physical activities. Those who knew him recalled him enjoying recreation with children and adults. He used these moments as a diversion from his more serious activities.
I want you to sing and dance and forget your troubles. Let's have some music, and all of you dance. Now we are met in the capacity of a social community. For what? that our minds may rest and our bodies receive that recreation which is proper and necessary to keep up an equilibrium, to promote healthy action to the whole system. Recreation and diversion are as necessary to our well-being as the more serious pursuits of life. There is not a man in the world but what, if kept at any one branch of business or study, will become like a machine. Our pursuits should be so diversified as to develop every trait of character and diversity of talent.
More recreation and more devotion in the home will result in greater family solidarity. Successful families do things together: family projects, work, vacations, recreation, and reunions. Rest and physical exercise are essential, and a walk in the fresh air can refresh the spirit. Wholesome recreation is a part of our religion, and a change of pace is necessary, and even its anticipation can lift the spirit. The leisure time of children must be constructively directed to wholesome, positive pursuits. Too much television viewing can be destructive. Families must spend more time together in work and recreation. Man needs beneficial recreation, a change of pace that refreshes him for heavy tasks ahead. Man also must take time to meditate, to sweep the cobwebs from his mind, so that he might get a more firm grip on the truth, and spend less time chasing phantoms and dallying in projects of lesser worth. Provide for recreation and amusements during the week, and provide for a holiday during the week, if possible.
I want to say that as the years pass, you will become increasingly grateful for that which you did in molding the lives of your children in the direction of righteousness and goodness, integrity and faith. That is most likely to happen if you can spend adequate time with them. Successful marriages and families are established and maintained on principles of faith, prayer, repentance, forgiveness, respect, love, compassion, work, and wholesome recreational activities. Encourage your children to read more and watch television less. A study by the American Psychological Association figures that the typical child watching 27 hours of TV a week will view 8,000 murders and 100,000 acts of violence from ages 3 to 12.
The number of those who report that their whole family usually eats dinner together has declined 33%. This is most concerning because the time a family spends together eating meals at home is the strongest predictor of children's academic achievement and psychological adjustment. Family mealtimes have also been shown to be a strong bulwark against children's smoking, drinking, or using drugs. There is inspired wisdom in this advice to parents. What your children really want for dinner is you. President Gordon B. Hinckley has pleaded that we work at our responsibility as parents as if everything in life counted on it, because in fact everything in life does count on it.
I am told that there was recently held in this area a great gathering which attracted 10,000 young people. I am satisfied that some of those young people were our own. It is reported that the acts of that evening's entertainment were lewd and evil. They were loathsome and downgrading. They were representative of the foulest aspects of life. There was no beauty in them. There was only ugliness and depravity. It was sleaze in its worst form. I know of no better answer to these foul practices that confront our young people than the teachings of a mother given in love with an unmistakable warning. There will be failures, yes. There will be heartbreaking disappointments. There will be tragedies, bleak and hopeless. But in very many cases, if the process begins early and continues, there will be success and happiness and love and much of gratitude. Opening your purse and handing a son or daughter money before you rush off to work will not do. It may only lead to more evil practice. They want to do something exciting. They think that wish is not satisfied with wholesome entertainment. They're drifters looking to do something that will make them feel macho.
I would encourage you to be available to your children. I've heard it said that no man, as death approaches, has ever declared that he wished he had spent more time at the office. I begin with Family Home Evening. We cannot afford to neglect this heaven-inspired program. It can bring spiritual growth to each member of the family, helping him or her to withstand the temptations which are everywhere. The lessons learned in the home are those that last the longest. Reading is one of the most enjoyable experiences of life. In this day when so much is abridged or adapted or shredded or boiled down, it is mind-enriching to sit down in the company of a congenial book.
When I was 14 years old, our troop went to Big Cottonwood Canyon on a scout outing. After setting up camp, our leader said to me, "Monson, you like to fish. I'm giving you 2 fishing flies, a black gnat and a white miller. Now you catch enough fish to feed this troop for the next 3 days, and I'll pick all of you up on Saturday." He departed. I never questioned his charge. I knew if I did my part, I'd catch the fish and feed the troop. And I did. I was a man before I realized it just isn't proper for the scoutmaster to bail out on the boys. But what a learning experience it was for us.
Happiness is discovered at home. Isn't it interesting that all of us remember the home where we were reared? We may not recall the dimensions of the house, and we may not remember whether the neighborhood was affluent or on the downside. But what we remember are the enjoyable experiences we shared as a family. The home is indeed the laboratory of our lives, and what we learn there largely determines what we do when we leave there.
As we close this historical conversation, I would like to leave you with a thought by Alma Heaton. Religion tells us that Adam fell that men might be, and men are that they might have joy. In this concept lies the whole purpose of life. It isn't death that we should fear, but never beginning to live.